Melbourne Cocktail Festival is a really great step forward in terms of really coming together
to build health and resilience in the industry.
We see this significant change in a mixology world and a coffee world.
Because we don't have this prescribed educational path, we all really have to build that curriculum, to build that education, much like we're doing today.
So using these digital tools, we can understand the ergonomics, the efficiency and the metrics of the bar, and then also start to collaborate worldwide.
We're learning about the importance of mental health, sustainability for our bodies, our minds, for the produce that we use.
Honest and inclusive connection makes everything, including what's in your glass, taste better.
To be sure that I have a right audience, that's just one question. Who likes coffee? Okay, who didn't put the hands up? You can just leave the room right now, save 15 minutes of your day. Good, I fucking love coffee. And that's a real fact. That's what brought me to Australia in 2014 for the World Barista Championship. I was representing my country, Slovakia, very tiny country, and I came here for the first time to the Melbourne. And it really opened my eyes, and I was so shocked. For that time, I really understood that Australians and the coffee here in Australia is somewhere else than in London, New York, Canada, anywhere else. I was beaten that year. I became second. The bloke who won, he's from St. Ellie Roastery. I love him till nowadays. But yeah, I was beaten by him. But it really was an eye-opening moment in my life. And I understood how coffee is important in Australian culture. And today, I really want to talk about how coffee changed, how cocktails changed, but how coffee cocktails didn't. We have amazing roasteries, amazing baristas, technologies. We have this all geeky stuff going around, especially here in Melbourne, in the city, in the mecca of coffee. And we have the same thing in the cocktail bars, you know. Like 20 years ago, we had what? We had a kettle for hot water, maybe coffee machine. Now we have rotovapes, right? It's crazy what's happening. And we see this significant change in a mixology world and a coffee world. But when we think about specifically coffee cocktails, it's just the same thing. Same thing all over again. All over again, same espresso martini, or very badly brewed espresso, or no coffee at all. And I live in London for almost 4 years. I remember when I moved there for the first time, 2014-15, and I started my career at the Savoy, I was like, Jesus, this is the mecca of cocktails, right? A coffee was shit back in time. No one cared about coffee in London. 6 years ago, if you want to ask some bartenders, give me some good coffee cocktail, they'll be like, yeah, I'm using some Italian blend, and respect to all Italians. Giorgio left, thanks God, and Ago. But I mean, you know, back in time, it was very challenging. And I moved to Australia just 2 years ago, and I'm so happy to be here in the land of coffee and opportunities. And I want to just slowly explain you a little timeline, how coffee and cocktail world evolved and where we are right now. So in 1990s, that was the year I was born, I'm still young, we witnessed the staple coffee or instant coffee. It's something for my mom, she used to still drink, and yeah, we're not talking anymore, but she's drinking this coffee. And why? You know, it's easy to make, it's convenient, it's cheap. You know, everyone knows how to take 3 spoons of this and 6 spoons of sugar because it's disgusting, so you want to balance it up. You know, they put hot water. It's just very easy to use. And that was just kind of beginning, you know, of coffee at homes, coffee in the offices. And the same thing happened in a cocktail world. I just don't want to bitch about baristas, you know, I'm here to keep it equal. But same thing happened in the mixology world. We saw the vodka and post-mix, you know, in the 80s, big vodka brands came up to US and London, bartenders got crazy, and they started mixing those beautiful long highballs with very cheap mixers, which was very fast, you know, it was very efficient in terms of money, and it was lots of fun because you get drunk. But somehow we're moving, you know, and 90s are gone and we're living in a kind of present moment, the moments of millennials. And all of us, we remember this beautiful Starbucks company. I'm not gonna, you know what I'm talking about, but American company came here, you know, preach about the coffee change, about American style of the coffee, and Australians, they didn't accept it at all. That's why Starbucks is not doing well in Australia, because Australians understood what is the craft coffee. And back in 2005, it was one of the first craft roasteries open, and it's called St. Ellie. And apparently the guy who beat me is still working for them. And they begin the journey of specialty coffee here in Australia. And then since 2000, 2005, every Australian or New Zealand barista who moved abroad, opened a coffee shop, was very successful. because you guys know how to make coffee, right? And about that similar time when the first specialty coffee shops and roasteries being open here in Melbourne and across Australia, we witnessed the boom of espresso martini. Now we know the story about Dick Bratzel and beautiful model walks to the bar and everything happened in the 80s, super cool story, and God bless him. But what happened, the trend of espresso martini came to Australia around 2000. There was this very famous place called Supper Club. Then of course we had the bars like Black Pearl, etc. So those establishments start promoting a craft coffee together with booze, right? But we were still kind of missing the element or like the link in between which can combine two different worlds, world of coffee and cocktails, and that's the coffee liqueur. That's the reason why in 2013, the brand which I represent worldwide, Mr. Black, was born. Australia is known for amazing coffee, is known for amazing baristas, is known for amazingly super quality products, as we saw today from botanicals, etc. And it's known for great bartenders, but we're still missing this kind of link, the coffee liqueur. And when Mr. Black was established in 2013, it was kind of game changer because that's kind of like, you know, really the point showing the world that's who we are, that's what Australians do. Coffee and booze together very well. And it's 7 years we are on the market and we're trying to change the world of coffee and cocktails and change the perception of the people, how they look at the coffee cocktails. If we want to change something and we want to be part of this beautiful positive change, we need to ask ourselves how to do it, you know. It's easy for Martin Hudak to talk about coffee cocktails because he worked for Mr. Black, they're paying him to be here, you know, he's traveling around the world, he did so many competitions, but I'm here to share with you some wisdoms which I learned over 10 years of my experience, and I'm here to give you some kind of ideas how you can create better coffee cocktail program in your bar, home, or coffee shop. And first of all, us as a bartenders, as a mixologist, hospitality people, we need to understand that coffee should be respected. And I love mezcal, I'm a big fan of mezcal, but sometimes we are too geeky, you know, about spirits, you know. We know palenqueros, we know exactly which bottle and which plastic bottle was brought to us. We know all the stories about it. But if you ask bartender, like, where is your coffee coming from? Coffee machine. This Italian down the road. We really don't care about it too much, you know. When we are able to have one of the best Japanese bar tools or using amazingly frozen block of ice and using rotovapes, but when we do espresso martinis, we just don't give a shit about coffee. Because it's just coffee and we take it for granted. Because it's so cheap, right? You buy a kilo of coffee for $15, $20. You buy a beautiful bottle of single malt whiskey for $80, $120, $150. But to put it in perspective, to produce 1 kilo of coffee, it takes more than 1 day for one farmer to pick it by hands. And I went to the coffee farm many times. I was recently in Brazil. It's one of the hardest jobs ever because those little cherries, which they're growing on the trees, it's a fruit, and they are so tiny, and they need to be very red and very sweet and ripe enough to be able to be picked and produced. Now, we have to understand that coffee is not a root, it's not a spice, it's not a pit or peanut. It's a fruit growing on the tree, same way as grapes, passion fruit, or I don't know, apricots, and should have those fruity flavors. If you taste a beautiful cup of coffee, like you could have today morning over there from the guys, you know, it should be something fruity, something different, floral, citrusy, should remind you, I don't know, perfume of your ex-girlfriend, doesn't matter. Should remind you something nice. If your coffee tastes burnt and bitter, like ashtray, that's probably Italian coffee, or it's probably just over-roasted and not well-prepared coffee. And thanks to Italians, we have espresso. They brought espresso here to Australia in the 50s, and they create coffee machine. But their style of the coffee is much more bitter, robust, burnt, and heavy. What we want to see as a change is we want to show you the coffee as a fruit, which should taste like bergamot, lychee, green peas, or, I don't know, morello cherries. And because it's fruit, we have to understand it has origin. You know, as the guys from Cantina OK said, like, they visited those little farms, they went to those little villages, and they saw those farmers, and they got that excitement, which they want to share with you. The same thing I witnessed and I see around the world. I'm meeting the farmers, and it's just amazing to see how they are different. Coffee is not the same. There are more than 3,000 types of the trees around the world, and we're using only 30 of them. It's such a new topic compared to wine. Wine is here for 3,000 years. Coffee only 300 years. It's still new and we still don't know as much as we should. And that origin gonna basically tell you what kind of coffee it's gonna be. You know, coffee from Africa, it's completely different than coffee from Latin America. Of course, because of the climate, because of the altitude, because of the farmer, because of his technique, how he makes his coffee. And then, of course, in the end, there is a roaster and barista. And then origin is very important. Because if you understand that your Shiraz coming from Australia or your Shiraz coming from France, you know it's going to be different. If you understand those differences, you'll understand the flavors. And those flavors are very important in every cup of coffee you might have every day. I know we take it for granted because you just want to, you know, get caffeinated and have 6 shots of espresso before work and, you know, have a crazy night. But sometimes try to think about those flavors. It's scientifically proved coffee has more flavor than wine, and I don't want to insult anyone in this room. We had an amazing wine presentation earlier. There are more than 2,500 flavors on a taste wheel, but our palate and our experience and the knowledge is not there yet to understand and detect those flavors. And as I said, sometimes coffee really can taste something what you never had before. I remember my first coffee I tried in competition back in 2013. It was from Burundi in Africa. And I opened the bag, I smelled it, and it was like a green peas. It was very vegetal. I smelled paprika. And I was like, wow, what's going on? Is this really coffee? And that was the moment when I understood there are so many things we can still learn and see. So whenever you have a chance or opportunity to visit your local roaster, and here in Melbourne you have plenty of them, just try to go there and try to go for a cupping session where you can taste the coffees and see how hard or easy it is. You can learn more about the coffee, and then in the end, you can taste those beautiful flavors and aromas and use them in your potential. You can create beautiful, delicious coffee cocktail. Don't take coffee only as a modifier. Coffee can be star of your show, and don't take it for granted. It's one of the most important elements in your coffee cocktail program, same as ice, same as your single malt whiskey, same as your beautiful Japanese shakers. And try to use it and try to experiment as much as you can. I'm doing pretty much, I don't know, about 10 different coffee cocktails a month because the work allows me to do it, and there are no limitations at all. Like 6 years ago, I was thinking it's impossible to combine coffee and vegetables together. Last year, I created a beetroot espresso martini, and it's working fantastic. So there are no limits. You know, you can blend coffee with mezcal, you can blend coffee with literally anything. And I really, really believe the future of coffee cocktails is right now. It really, really depends on what we do right now in the present moment. And although I work at the Savoy, one of the oldest establishments in Europe, and we had this beautiful Savoy cocktail book with old recipes, I don't want to do those cocktails anymore. Fuck them, you know? Like, yes, know how to do hanky-panky and being, like, nerdy about your Corpse Reviver #2. Like, have those knowledge and basics. Know how to do amazing espresso martini, but there is world out there, and there is something more than just espresso martini or White Russian. And although it's the #1 best-selling, not coffee cocktail, but cocktail in Australia, espresso martini, I want to encourage you to go out there, try specialty coffee, try Mr. Black. We have Mr. Black Amaro, we have normal Mr. Black. Try to go and experiment and taste and try to create the modern coffee cocktail classics. And for the end of the presentation, I just want to share with you some recipes of friends of mine, which I saw recently on the menus. And one of them is very well-known Matt Wiley, the founder and owner of Scout. He created espresso martini with the same name. He launched this drink in a Dolphin Hotel in Surrey Hills. And as you can see, it has nothing to do with the DNA of classic espresso martini. Of course, he's using tequila, fantastic choice. Bit of Campari to give you bitterness. Bit of peach and vanilla, support the florality, but as well the fruitiness of Mr. Black. Combine it all together and serve it in the rock glass, no ice, grated chocolate on top. Now, if I would do this drink 6 years ago back in London, I would be crucified. Because we don't have a martini glass, we don't have a free coffee beans, you know, we don't have a lot of vodka, etc. So the change is happening, and we see people, even like Matt Wiley, focusing on a good quality coffee and good quality coffee liquors and ingredients. For example, Kate McGraw from Isabel, she just recently launched this drink on her menu, and it's something very interesting about it. It's a savory coffee cocktail. Now, I would never think about vegetables and coffee. Now, she was thinking beyond that, umami flavors and kind of this Asian Japanese influence. And she created this kind of tasty, experimental Mr. Black coffee cocktail. And whenever you are in Bondi, make sure you go there and taste it. There are no limits, absolutely no limits. If you don't want to travel far away to Sydney and you want to be local, I really, really encourage you to go. Very cool bar, Capitano. Darren created this, how would say, the tiramisu in a liquid form. So as you know, there are lots of Italians in this country, and they love tiramisu, and they love all those dessert stuff and coffee time. And he basically combined the coffee and sweet stuff together in this beautiful tiramisu milk punch. And it's still on the menu any time of the day, so make sure you go there. If you tell them you're coming from Mr. Black, they're gonna give you a hug for free. But what I wanna tell you is, it's not only about those 3 drinks, not about only us as a Mr. Black trying to do the change, it's about you. Don't be afraid, experiment. And if you have any questions or need any help, I'm here, although I'm traveling around the world almost every week. I'm here on social medias, over the email. You can ask me whatever you want, whenever you want. And if you have time tonight and when you want to have a bit of caffeine kick, at 5 o'clock, we're starting our little pop-up with our brand ambassador for Australia, Jimmy Snellgrove. We're doing our pop-up at Binney Drive and Lane. So from 5 till, let's say, 8, 9, you can come, get lots of caffeine. You can try our creations, and then we can go party in other parties later on. Thank you very much.